A second chance, Maria and Alexandra had reconciled, and Maria was convinced that Alexandra would change. At first, things seemed better. Alexandra tried to be careful, but old habits meant constant challenges. However, Maria narrowed her eyes at the warning signs, hoping that their love would be enough to overcome the difficulties. Alexandra, however, began to spend too much time away from home again, often going on vacations without Maria. Maria, left alone, tried to fill her time with activities, but she felt abandoned. Alexandra, even at a distance, was still jealous. His calls were full of unwarranted questions about what Maria was doing and who she was with. She hoped these reactions were just a passing phase, but his jealousy was becoming tiresome. Alexandra, you have to stop controlling me. I can't live like this, Maria told him one day on the phone. I'm just trying to protect what we have, he replied, but his tone betrayed a lack of confidence, both in her and in himself. Maria tried to remain optimistic, but in her soul she felt that something was wrong. Parties and superficiality. Months passed, and Alexander spent more and more time partying, and with a circle of friends who seemed more interested in money and fun than genuine relationships. Maria was increasingly dissatisfied with the attention she was receiving. Alexandra, don't you realize that we need time together? She asked one evening as he was leaving for another party. Don't exaggerate, Maria. I also need my time. You're too dependent, he replied, charging to shift the blame onto her. Maria felt more and more alone. Alexandra was beginning to show less and less interest in the relationship as he continued to criticize her. Any discussion of the future or plans together was met with disinterest. When Maria lost all the money she had in a bad business, Alexandra not only didn't help her, he blamed her for everything. She hoped that he would be her support, but by constantly blaming her, their situation was becoming unbearable. The surprise from Portugal. However, Maria did not give up. On November 20th, she decided to surprise him and traveled to Portugal for his birthday. She hoped the gesture would make him appreciate their relationship more. When he arrived, Alexander was surprised, but his reaction was not exactly what Maria expected. After a night together, in a moment of intimacy, he started accusing her again. Maria, are you sure you haven't slept with someone else? How do I know you're being honest with me? He told her coldly. Maria felt deeply hurt. She was trying to prove her love while he continued to suspect her for no reason. Tears were streaming down her cheeks, but Alexandra didn't seem to notice them. The final decision. After returning home, Maria realized that their relationship could no longer continue. Alexandra's toxicity was destroying her from the inside. She confronted him. I can't live like this anymore. You don't attract love, you destroy it. Alexandre ignored her, but when Maria asked him to leave the apartment, he lost his cool. In a fit of rage, he pushed her and slapped her. Maria, trembling, said to him, It's ready. I can't anymore. Get out of my life, Alexandra left, leaving her alone but emotionally devastated. Maria had nothing left in a foreign land. Collapse, Maria ended up on the streets without food or water for 2 days. Despair had gripped her, and the only support came from her mother, who sent her money to return home. After arriving, Maria broke down in tears, falling into a deep depression. Alexandra tried to contact her again, but Maria didn't want to hear from him anymore. However, one day he showed up at her door, asking for another chance. One more chance, Maria, though deeply wounded, felt that a part of her still hoped for a change. Alexandra, with tears in his eyes, begged her. Maria, please give me one last chance. I promise I will change. Maria reluctantly agreed to let him back into her life, but on one condition, that they work together on their relationship. For one day things seemed better. Alexandra seemed affectionate, and Maria was beginning to hope again. The next evening, however, everything changed. Alexandra became suspicious again. Show me the phone! I want to see who you talked to today, he demanded aggressively. Maria, exasperated, answered him. I can't live under your control. I have nothing to hide, but I refuse to live like this. This discussion quickly degenerated. Alexandra snapped her, and Maria understood that nothing had really changed. The last shot after that incident, Maria confronted Alexandra, asking him to leave for good. He, full of rage, hit and insulted her, leaving her devastated. Maria, trembling, found the strength to say to him, "You're the most toxic thing that's ever happened to me. Go away and never come back." Alexandre left, but his hurtful words echoed in Maria's mind. She knew she had to find a way to heal, but the scars ran deep. One more chance, Maria was in front of the door, looking at Alexandre, who for the first time seemed sincere in his regrets. His eyes were wet and his voice was shaking. "Maria, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. I don't want to lose you." Maria, although full of resentment, still felt something for him. It was hard to completely close the door on a relationship in which he had invested so much. After moments of silence, he answered, "Alexandre, I don't know what to believe anymore. You hurt me too much, but I want to believe that you could change. I'm giving you one last chance." For one day, everything seemed different. Alexandra treated her with a gentleness she hadn't seen in a long time. But that peace was short-lived. The next day, his jealousy reappeared. He asked her to show him her phone, insisting that he had a right to know everything she was doing. Maria flatly refused, and this sparked Alexandra's anger. In the middle of the argument, he raised his hand to her. Maria looked him in the eye and said, "That's it. You've proven you don't even deserve this chance." The last shot. In the days that followed, Maria felt like the whole world was falling on her shoulders. Alexandra had left her apartment, but he had left behind not only physical wounds, but also emotional ones. Maria no longer felt herself. Meanwhile, Alexandra did not stop harassing her with messages and calls. One day, he came unannounced to her home, asking to talk. "Maria, I know I was wrong, but you have your share of the blame," he said, again trying to manipulate the situation. Maria, full of courage, answered him, "No, the fault is yours. Our relationship was a trap, and I was naive enough to think you could change." Alexandra stormed off, leaving Maria alone but more determined than ever to break free from his influence. Collapse Maria now faced a harsh reality. He had lost everything: his savings, his self-confidence, and his hope for a better future. She had run out of resources, and the days she had spent on the streets of Geneva were the darkest moments of her life. Without food and water, Maria felt she could not continue. In a last-ditch effort, he called his mother. "Mom, I can't anymore. I need help," she said through tears. Her mother, though distressed by her daughter's plight, sent her money to return home. The drive back was a combination of relief and shame. Maria knew she needed to recover, but she didn't know where to start. Arriving home, Maria burst into tears. The room that had been familiar to him now seemed like an empty refuge. In the following weeks, depression took hold of her. Finding herself after months of isolation, Maria made an important decision: to seek professional help. Therapy became a light in the darkness. Each session helped her better understand why she had stayed in a toxic relationship. "Maria, what you have experienced does not define who you are. You are stronger than you think," her therapist told her. As time passed, Maria began to see things differently. She reconnected with the friends she had lost because of Alexandre and began to engage in activities that brought her joy. She rediscovered old passions like painting and reading and found a job that motivated her. One day, looking in the mirror, Maria said to herself, "I won't let anyone make me feel less than I deserve anymore." A lesson learned, Maria's life was beginning to take color again. Although the emotional scars were still there, she had learned to accept them as part of an important lesson. Alexandre tried to contact her again, but Maria flatly refused to answer him. One morning, while enjoying a coffee on the balcony, Maria reflected on her path. "Maybe it took me going through hell to learn what self-love really means," she told herself. That painful experience had made her a stronger, more confident, and self-worth person. Maria decided that her future would be one full of light, regardless of the shadows of the past. Maria felt trapped in an emotional prison throughout her toxic relationship with Alexandre. At first, their love seemed genuine and promising, but as time went on, control, jealousy, and manipulation replaced affection. Every moment of peace was followed by fits of rage or unfounded accusations, and Maria felt she had to abandon herself to please Alexandre. His obsession with money and personal pleasures made her feel invisible and unworthy, while his constant accusations eroded her self esteem. In toxic relationships like the one Maria experienced, love becomes a weapon, and the abusive partner manipulates, lies, and controls, leaving the victim feeling lost and powerless. People today must understand that such relationships are not true love and must recognize the signs of abuse, whether physical or emotional. If someone feels controlled, afraid to speak freely, or forced to sacrifice their identity to maintain peace, these are clear signs of a harmful relationship. Leaving a toxic relationship is challenging but possible, and it requires setting firm boundaries, seeking support from friends, family, or a therapist, and acknowledging that no one deserves to be treated without respect. Maria overcame Alexandre's abuse through the courage to ask for help and the therapy that helped her rebuild her confidence and find a new purpose. Her story teaches us that self love and self respect are more important than any relationship, and that saying no to an abusive partner is not a weakness, but the greatest proof of strength. The world should understand that it's better to be alone than to remain in a relationship that destroys your soul. And that recovery, though difficult, is always possible when we give ourselves time and treat our wounds with patience. Thank you for joining me and being part of the stories I share here. Each one of you is a part of this journey, and your support means more than words can express. Subscribe, leave a like, comment, and let's build a community together that cherishes stories and the lessons they bring. I love you all, and I can't wait to see you in the next story. Starheart.